Silent Separation by Guman, Chapter 10.3. No escape. She could not believe she could be so calm. She knew sooner or later she would have to face the consequences of her previous marriage, but not at this time in front of many of Yichen's friends. Even if Yichen could endure it, she did not want him to be a gossip target because of her past. Yichen has always been full of pride. Wrong person? How can that be? Mrs. Yin, are you joking? President Lin laughed out loudly and was a little embarrassed, yet he did not want to leave. With the situation stalling, the door of the hotel was pushed open. Welcome. The hotel attendant in uniform sat respectfully and attracted everyone's attention. Escorted by a big group of people, a handsome man in the prime of his life carrying an expensive handmade suit walked in, his footsteps moving unhurriedly and his manner imposing. The bright lights in the lobby shined on him, highlighting his honor and importance. Su Min noticed there were a few university leaders in the group, hence she could not help but look at the man walking in the center, wondering who he could be to have the faculty leaders acting in complete difference. At this moment, President Lin was so happy he called out and waved his hand excitedly. President Yin, your wife is over here. The word President Yin suddenly reminded Su Min of someone, Yin Hun, president of SO, who donated a new building to the university. The moment President Lin's voice was heard, Yin Hun had already stopped walking and turned toward their direction. The group of people surrounding him stopped in their footsteps. He hesitated for a few seconds, raised his eyebrows, and walked straight towards them. Appearing like he did not see Mushan standing there looking stunned, Yinhun walked past her and politely greeted President Lin. So it's President Lin. I was planning to visit you tomorrow. I didn't expect to see you here. President Lin felt flattered and said, You are too kind. It is actually my good fortune to see President Yin. President Yin, this is Mrs. Yin, right? Just a moment ago, Mrs. Yin firmly said I've made a mistake. He was pointing at Mushan. Yinhun casually glanced at Mushan and then laughed. There's a little resentment, but my wife is on vacation in Switzerland. President Lin, your eyesight is failing. President Lin glanced suspiciously at Mushan and stuttered. Yes. Now I see they don't look that alike. While saying that, he bowed repeatedly towards Mushan. I'm sorry, I've made a big mistake, miss, I'm sorry. Mushan shook her head slightly. What a coincident encounter, better than an invitation. President Lin, if you don't mind, please join us for a simple meal. Of course. While talking, the two of them walked away together. Mushan looked up and saw Yichen looking expressionlessly in Yinhun's direction. His eyes deep and unreadable, making it difficult to understand his mood. Sensing her uneasiness, Yichen looked away and lowered his head to speak to her. His intonation was unexpectedly a lot more gentle than when he scolded her just now at the roadside. But of course, he still appeared a little solemn. Think about what to write for your self-reflection report when we get home. Mushan stared expressionlessly at him, her brain not functioning. Yichen accepted a cigarette from Lao Yun. I've just told you how to cross the road. Have you forgotten already? Yinhun and his group were guided by the hotel's attendants into the elevator reserved for VIPs. The split second before the elevator door closed, Yinhun seemed inadvertently looking at Yichen, who, at the same time, was also looking at him with his penetrating gaze. This short and sudden interlude caused everyone not knowing how they should react, but seeing that Yichen looked at ease and began to chat and joke again, they did not suspect anything was amiss. After all, Yunhong was very famous, so Zhao Mosheng was a great distance from his level. It seems inconceivable if they were truly husband and wife. Very soon, the manager notified them that an empty table was available. Because of their mistake, they have wasted time of their guests. Hence, to express their regret, a 20% discount for everything except beverages will be given. Calculating that he could save hundreds of yuan, Lao Yun immediately felt rather happy. During the get-together, the atmosphere was lively. Everyone was eager to talk about the many interesting stories that had happened in the law of faculty. Mushan was preoccupied, but sometimes when she heard something funny, she also could not help laughing. Someone even recalled and joked about Mushan's answer when she was recalled on in the criminal law class. Mushan was embarrassed. She quietly asked Yichen how he knew, since he was obviously not in his class year. Yichen simply smiled. Don't you know, you're quite famous. Actually, Professor Zhao told a story about Mushan to the student in later class years. He had said there was a little girl to follow her boyfriend to class. She was called upon to answer a question. The result was, Professor Zhao told the story in a vivid manner, always making his student laugh out loud. Later, there was even a junior who did not know Yichen well, but asked, "Are you the boyfriend of the girl Professor Zhao spoke about? Why have I never seen your girlfriend?" At that time, Mushan was no longer there. After being forced by Lao Yun to drink several glasses of wine, Yichen got up to go to the restroom. When he found the restroom based on the direction from a waiter's staff, he opened the door. Someone was already in there. The man was washing his hand. He turned his head when Yichen walked in and then straightened his body. Yichen unconsciously stopped walking and met the man's eye in the mirror. Yin-hun. For a moment, there was only silence in the small bathroom. Yichen. After a while, Yin-hun spoke first. "I have heard a lot about you." "It's nothing." Yichen calmly looked back at Yin-hun. "Mr. Yin is the one who is famous." "Why don't you ask how I know your name?" Yin-hun turned off the water and then turned to face Yichen, his gentle eyes not matching with his serious image. He said slowly, "My ex-wife used to search for that name in the search engine I developed." They had returned home really late. During dinner time, Lao Yun and Suman forced Mushan to drink a lot of wine. When they walked out of the hotel, she felt dizzy and had to lean on Yichen for support. She promptly fell asleep as soon as she was helped into the car. Yichen carried her into the bedroom and put her on the bed. Mushan quickly crawled under the quilt, curling up and then sleeping soundly. Probably from being drunk, Mushan's cheeks were bright red and her long lashes obediently closed downward. Yichen gazed at her for a long time before he finally lowered his head and kissed her forehead. "Did he also kiss you this way?" Yichen's low voice revealed his emotion, which he had struggled to hide. He did not want Mushan to see the pain in his eyes when she wakes up. Yichen lowered his head again and put his face next to Mushan's, their breathing intertwined. "Was he also this close to you? Did he also receive your smiles and passion? Did he also?" Yichen commanded himself to stop thinking farther. He thought that they were in the same situation. He was alone in this world, whereas she was in another world. She would come back one day, or he could not wait anymore and go look for her. In actuality, from the beginning of this year, he already planned to go abroad by the end of the year, even knowing the world is like a vast sea of people. But shortly after, she had returned and looked at him like a stranger, then told him she had been married. If someone was with her, so she was not alone, shouldn't he not be glad? But Yichen realized sadly he could not think like that. He cared very much, cared about her in losing her spiritual self. Mushan still breathing evenly. Yichen gently tucked her in, stood up and walked out and closed the door. It was a very cold late night in November. Even in a bustling city like an A city, the street has very few people left. Yin-hun sat next to the window of a tea house that opened 24 hours. He looked out to see a man walking towards the tea house. Even the darkness of the night could not conceal any of his handsome appearance and outstanding demeanor. Yin-hun knew the man Mushan could never forget must be extraordinary, but Yichen exceeded his expectation. Such a man must also have been outstanding when he was a student, so how did Mushan manage to catch him? If he was to compete with Yichen at C University in the same year, who would win? Yichen, who was also a popular figure in C University during his time, evaluated this in his heart. If so, he may encounter Mushan first. Maybe everything will be different. But even if he met her first at the university, a proud and arrogant person like him at that time would probably not fancy Mushan. Serendipity is a mystery thing. While Yichen was lost in thought, Yichen had already sat across from him. "I thought you'd be late. I'm always punctual," Yichen said in an ordinary tone as he flipped through the drink menu and gave it back to the waiter. "Maojin, a kind of green tea, please, thank you." The waiter walked away. Yichen looked straight at Yichen and said something astonishing. "What can I do to make you give up?" Getting to the point so suddenly was a provocative move, but this did not unnerve Yichen like Yichen wanted. Yichen retained his composure. "Mr. Yin, I think this question is pointless. Loi He speaks so eloquently and gives people a headache." Yichen smiled and leaned back. He clasped his hand. "It doesn't seem like Mushan told you anything about me." His tone was certain because he realized this when he saw what happened in the lobby. "Indeed, she didn't say much," Yichen replied. At first, he did not let her say. Later, Mushan probably did not dare to say. He also seems to subconsciously defer dealing with this matter indefinitely. In fact, this was so out of character. However, after meeting Mushan, inadvertently there will be an exception. Yichen smiled and seemed lost in thought. After some time, he asked, "Is Loi He interested to hear my version?" Yichen lifted up his eyes. "Of course, since I've come here." In the midst of the sweet-smelling tea, Yichen became silent. Maybe he really didn't know where to start his story. 7 years ago, Yichen had a turning point in his life. It was his most promising and also most desperate year. Yichen, who studied abroad in S University in California, actually came from an average rural family. Due to his poor family background, Yichen has never thought of studying abroad while he was studying in C University. Even though his grades were outstanding and good, at that time, the mathematic genius who many professors felt would have a promising future merely wanted to find a good-paying job and a stable job. Then he can bring his family to the city and stay with them, get married and have children and live an ordinary life. But this dream was quickly shattered. On the day before graduation, his girlfriend of 3 years was sad but determined to break up with him. Yichen was shocked and found it hard to comprehend, especially after learning that she was already involved with the son of the department head for some time now. He was disappointed and angry. "Yichen, I'm sorry." Confronted with his questioning, his girlfriend appeared sorrowful. "I was too naive before. I thought that the world was simple, but when I was graduating and searching for a job, I realized that no matter how good my grades are, if I don't have a powerful backing, no one will give me a chance. You know about my application to stay on at the university, but did you know that I've suffered many grievances? You can't help me. He's not as good as you in all aspects, but at least he can help me to proudly lift my head up high before anyone in the department. Yichen, I don't want my pride to be gradually chipped away by the hardship in life. Maybe you'll be successful in the future, but how long do I have to wait? When that happens, my youth is already gone. So what's the point? I want a respectful life, but you cannot give that to me. You can't protect my dignity. Yichen, I still love you, but I'm sorry. I have too much pride." Yichen was left speechless. That night, he could not sleep. The next day, with bloodshot eye, he phoned his parents. He decided to apply for a scholarship to study in the U.S. His study abroad was arranged quickly. On the day he left, his girlfriend was not among the students who saw him off. Unlike other students who left reluctantly, Yichen was calm. No one guessed the ambition hiding in his sincere eyes.